Woo!
Welcome to Night Talks, the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications talk show produced by students for you. I'm Miranda Rodriguez, a fourth-year student studying Media Production Management and Technology. And our guest today is Steve Weinstein, a CJC alum who's worked in leadership roles for WBFF, WMAR, KJRH, and KERO. And now he's the Vice President General Manager of WEWS-TV in Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So you're a CJC graduate. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience here and the skills that you've learned here on campus?
Yeah, I mean, this was the start of my career. When I started on teleprompter, like a lot of people did, where we used to have paper and we used to tape the paper together when we did our newscast. And then I moved to camera operator, then I moved to audio, then I moved to technical director, and then I started shooting video. I shot packages, and I also edited video. Back then it was tape to tape, not like nonlinear now, which was digital. So I pretty much took advantage of every opportunity that I had at the school.
Wow, that sounds great. So a little bit about that helped you gain your experience, but you began your career as a commercial production photographer and editor for Fox 45 WBFF TV in Baltimore. How did you get this opportunity right after graduating?
So I went home. I'm from Baltimore originally. I went back home. I did not have a job. I literally went to every TV station, knocked on the doors. I showed up at the TV station with a resume in hand. I got 3 interviews, and I got 1 job offer, and that was at WBFF.
Well, that sounds great. You actually put in the work to do all of this.
I did.
What types of projects did this entail?
So mostly I shot television commercials. WBFF at the time was a production house, and we would shoot local television commercials. Sometimes we would shoot national television commercials. I learned how to light, use 1-inch tape recording materials, field recording, in-studio recording. I also worked on a children's television show called Captain Chesapeake, which was a children's show in Baltimore, and I did a show called BTV, which was a top 10 music video countdown show, kind of like what MTV used to do.
That sounds so interesting, actually. So you worked for the Howard County Government Information Channel in Maryland. What was your role with this cable channel?
Yeah, I shot a weekly magazine show. I edited it, put it together, and I also shot documentaries. I directed city and county council meetings, and I worked with the county executive on projects that they worked on. So I got a lot of experience. It was in a very, like a small office. So the experience was good, but it set me up for some more production opportunities later on.
So in 1993, you returned back to Fox 45 as a news photographer, eventually elevating to chief photog. What types of stories did you cover?
Everything. So I was a member of the 1996 NPPA, National Press Photographers Association Station of the Year, and I covered everything from sports to news. In that 10-year period, I was at the Pentagon on 9/11. I covered that. I covered Cal Ripken's 21-31 when he had a consecutive game streak. I've been to the Super Bowl, to the Final Four. All kinds of news stories, more than you could probably, more than you can imagine.
It is a lot. So do any of your stories stand out as making the biggest impact to the communities you were serving?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest impact, not that I was fortunate to cover it, but when the plane flew into the Pentagon on 9/11, it certainly impacted my career. And, it's kind of like when you're a news photographer, you're taking people on a journey to a place that they can't go themselves. And so for me, I really went out and I tried to really capture all of the images kind of for history. It was a really chaotic day. That day, things were happening in New York, things were happening in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and I was completely focused on what was happening at the Pentagon in DC.
Yeah, it sounds like obviously a very tragic event, but you were able to experience a different side of news that day, so it helped out for your career, and also you were able to give that information out to people.
Yeah.
So were there any other types of experiences that you had with photog? Like what things were you covering?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a news photographer, you're really telling people stories every day. I was really fortunate that I worked with, reporters, many different reporters, but I had the occasion to work in the State House quite a bit. They'd like to send me down to the Maryland State House to do stories. I've covered politics, sports, a lot of sports. And then when I was a chief photographer, I supervised a group of 10 photojournalists, started a morning newscast with our news director. So from kind of telling stories also to developing talent, hiring people, hiring editors. So I think that's how I got into the management part of it too.
Yeah, vast variety of different roles and everything.
Yeah.
So after over 10 years with WBFF, you became News Operations Manager for WMAR. What led to this transition to the news station and an even bigger role in the newsroom?
Yeah, I mean, so I had a very small managerial role at WBFF. I knew my personal ceiling was higher than being the chief photographer. I had seen the chief photographer at my station become the news director, and I thought, I think I really have more to give. I really enjoyed, working with newer employees, helping develop their careers. I think my company recognized that, and then I got recruited by Scripps, the company I work for now, at WMAR. And so I really, I supervised over 55 people then, so I went from 10 to 55 people, and I was given a multi-million-dollar budget that I had to follow. I had no experience in that, but the people at the station really helped me, and I really dug in. One thing that's, I think, on my resume that maybe not a lot of people know, I got a business minor here at the University of Florida. So I took a lot of math courses. I took accounting 1 and 2. I took statistics 1 and 2. And I started utilizing some of the skills that I learned at UF in some of my budgeting and some of my processes. So it was really helpful to have a minor that wasn't exactly what my major was.
It definitely helps because I'm not much of a math person, but it sounds like you're able to do your budgeting a lot better and stuff like that when you were there. So did you have to adapt much to this change working with a new news room?
I did. One of the big reasons is that I went from a non-union television station to a union television station where we had contracts with a lot of different groups. So editors, photographers, reporters, the technicians, everybody had a different union. So I had to learn all of their union contracts in order to treat everybody fairly. And I really learned a lot more about the business when I worked through the contracts. While I had been on the street, with most of the photographers in the Baltimore market and they knew me, it really gave me another side of the business that I didn't really know. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why I think I was ascending in my career.
Well, that's great. So in 2006, you then became news director for KJRH in Tulsa, Oklahoma. How was that station and its news operation different than you experienced in Baltimore?
So Tulsa, Oklahoma, basically to me was the middle of nowhere. I had lived in Baltimore my entire life other than coming to the University of Florida. So at that time I had 2 children and my wife, and we were both from Baltimore, and the kids were born in Baltimore. And so when I got this opportunity, it was really a big difference, not only monetarily, but also an experience. There, I supervised 70 people, and I was in charge of all of the content. So not just the video content, but the producers, the executive producers, the assistant news director. So it was a much larger job, but in a much smaller market. And it laid the foundation for me running a larger operation.
So a lot of development in your career.
Yes.
So after 6 years with KJRH, you then worked as general manager for KERO-TV in Bakersfield, California. How did this time as news director prepare you to run all of the station's operations?
So when I was the news director in Tulsa, my general manager left after about 4 years, and I was encouraged to apply for general manager at that television station. I didn't get the job. And so I thought, well, why didn't I get the job? Why didn't I have certain experience in certain areas? So what I did was I delved into sales much more, delved into marketing much more. I kind of expanded my knowledge base at the television station and in my company. I let people know that I wanted to do more than the news director. And I found sales and marketing so fascinating, I wanted to keep going in my career.
All right, that sounds great. So during your time in KERO TV, you partnered with Arizona State University to develop the Journalism Career Program. What was the mission of this program, and how did it help young journalists grow professionally?
Yeah, so it is actually the model that Scripps has used for hiring just basically new talent to work in our company in smaller markets. So what we did was we would bring in 3 Arizona State graduates every semester to work for 6 months at the television station as either a digital content producer, a producer, or an MMJ. And then when they were ready to go, so they were employees of the television station, we gave them apartments, and they basically learned how to do their jobs. When they were ready to go, we let them on the air, we let them write for the website, and it was very quickly when they would come on and they were able to write for the web, they were able to produce a newscast, and then after that, 6 months was over, they were offered jobs at other Scripps stations or at KERO.
Well, that's great for them, and it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
In 2015, you became the Vice President General Manager of WEWS-TV in Ohio. What is the identity of this station and its products?
So right now, I believe that we do the best quality product in Cleveland, Ohio. We're not the #1 station. We were the #4 station when I took over, and now we're #2 or #1 in several newscasts. Because we do ethical journalism, we do investigative journalism, we spend a lot of time with crafting storytelling. We've hired some great photojournalists there, which is kind of my background, and we've won just a ton of awards since then. Awards come from doing great work. You don't try to win awards, but you get awards when you do great work. We've won 4 National Murrow Awards, multiple regional Murrow Awards, and over 150 Emmy Awards since I've been there. Oh, wow. So excellence is at the top of my mind all of the time, but being there for the community, investigating public officials sometimes when they're not doing the right thing. We've had a lot of stories about corruption in the government in not just Cleveland, but all of Ohio. I was also able to establish a reporter in Columbus, Ohio, so that we could cover the State House, and we also have a relationship with the Akron Beacon Journal. So my whole goal is to have complete coverage throughout the entire state of relevant news that is relevant to people in the Cleveland metropolitan area.
Of course. What have been the most challenging aspects of your career, and how did you work your way through them?
I think sometimes the challenges aren't the things that are happening at the station. I think it's the things that are happening in your personal life that impact the things that you do at the station. My kids have, from the time they were born, I've worked in news since the time they were born. But I've always made it a point to be there at their soccer games. I've made it a point to really provide myself a really good work-life balance. That doesn't mean that I turn the phone off, at 5 o'clock. Yeah. I mean, even yesterday there was a tornado warning in my area where I live in Ohio, and I was on the phone with the television station the entire time when I was at dinner last night.
That's crazy.
But you have to be able to identify what's important and when to be there for your employees, because I don't just work with for them, I work with them too. And so I'm there for guidance, I'm there for support, but I also want to make sure we're efficient and we're doing things the right way so we get the right information out to the public.
Of course, which is ultimately amazing. So with all the growth of digital and social media, how are broadcast stations adapting? Yeah,
I mean, big changes. It used to be we used to push people to our websites from the television station. Then it was we used to push people from the television station to our websites. And now the way our brands are, we actually are doing content specifically for social media platforms, specifically for the digital platform, and specifically for the linear television platform. And so that takes a lot of work because each piece of content is different. Very rarely do we run the same package that we ran in the 6 p.m. news online anymore. We may run it earlier in a different way or format, or maybe we do a vertical video now. So we also kind of use things as like an assignment desk. We don't use Twitter very much, but when we see information on Twitter, we look at it and we decide whether we're going to cover it or not. Sometimes it gives you the pulse of the community. So I mean, social media now can be like an assignment desk, or social media can be a way that we get out important news and information to people that may not watch linear television.
Exactly. Has it been hard transitioning from this linear, like traditional way to the social media?
No. It's just been a learning process for everybody. Video to me is video, written word is written word. As long as you're ethical and you're factual and you try not to show bias, you're going to be fine. So I'm okay. I'm okay with the transition. It's been great, and it kind of keeps you fresh all the time too. Remember, these things are just platforms. They're just distribution methods. The way we distribute our news content is different for each platform, but we're still trying to get the same information out to people from the age of 12 all the way up to 100, right? We're always trying to get that information out, and we need to meet people where they are, not where we tell them where they should be.
Of course. With so many options, including cable news, what roles does local news play?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think we're more important now than we've ever been. When you have severe weather, like a tornado warning that I was talking about earlier, people watch local news and the local meteorologists for the severe weather. National news doesn't do many local stories. I think sometimes national news, and I don't want to criticize them too much, but a lot of times national news or cable news doesn't really have real journalism. They really have a lot of people talking about opinions about journalism, but it's not real journalism. And I have a problem with between MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, they all are trying to fit an audience. We're trying to fit our local audience. We're trying to give people, my digital director has said it best, we want to be useful to our viewers. We just want to be useful to our viewers so that when they watch us, they get something from it. Whether or not there's a tornado dropping down in their neighborhood or the Browns won or lost a football game. We want to be interesting and useful to the people that watch us.
Of course. So is there any advice that you share with students looking to get involved in broadcast media?
Yeah, do it. I mean, I think, I've heard people say, don't get into this business, don't get into journalism. Listen, journalism is really important. If we don't continue to do fact-based journalism, and I mean like real facts, not facts, I think that we need to continue to do this. If we don't do this, and if we don't graduate students that are curious, that ask questions, then journalism will die. And we've been given, we have an amendment also, right? There's a First Amendment. Yeah. And we have the ability to hold public officials to account, which is really important, right? I really think that that's an important role. And I actually wish more students would go down the journalism path, whether they're writing for a magazine, a digital publication, working at a television station, or doing social media. I think the more people that are doing real journalism, the better the country is going to be.
Of course. So concerning the newsroom, what does the editorial process look like?
Yeah, so every day we have 2 editorial meetings at my television station, and most local television stations have an editorial meeting. Ours are at 9:45 and 3:30. In that meeting are reporters, the news director, the assistant news director, an EP, and all the producers that produce the newscast. We sit there and people they either send their story ideas the day before, or they talk about them in the meeting. And then we discuss what newscasts each one of those stories are going to go into. So it should take between 20 minutes and a half an hour. It is really, really good discussion. No one can get their feelings hurt. Everybody has to bring something to the table, and we're always looking for a lead story. I think there's a big misnomer sometimes in that a lot of people, and I would say even a lot of students, they like to do feature stories about human interest things. But really, research tells us that people want real news, not just homicides and fires. They want to know about things that are happening in their community. So we talk about those things in the meeting. We talk about following through on stories that maybe, other stations aren't going to do. In the old days, we used to read the newspaper to get our story ideas. Now we're the ones generating the story ideas. So it's really interesting to go sit in a meeting and listen to the different stories that we do. For instance, when Hamas kidnapped and killed people in the Middle East, we gave it more depth and context. We talked to Palestinians that lived in the town that hate Hamas. We talked to Jews that hate Hamas, but they love their Palestinian brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And so we gave perspective because everybody, a lot of people thought that Palestinians and Jews don't like each other. No, they all want to live in peace together. But Hamas has made it very difficult. So we talk about very difficult things in the newsroom and how we're going to cover stories. And that's my expectation every day, is I want to provide information to people that they may not know about and maybe provide a different perspective.
So you talked a little bit about the Hamas situation with the Palestinian Jews. When you talk about sensitive topics in the newsroom, or even if you're just brainstorming, how do you navigate it so that everybody is addressing this sensitive topic, but also addressing their emotional well-being as well?
Yeah, we actually have, our company provides guidance, number one, for that. When you're in the news business, sometimes you see things that other people don't see, right? And it can be very difficult. The sensitive topic part of it really has to be, everybody has to kind of come in and be respectful of each other. We spend a lot of time talking about respect and ethics in our newsroom. I think that when you're in a larger newsroom, you have a lot of people with a lot of experience, and you lean on the people, the reporters, and some of the staffers that have the experience to kind of help you along and guide the discussion. It shouldn't always come from the news director. Now, at my station, I'm the general manager, so I'm more of an observer than a participator. But the news director and I talk about that a lot. Are we being respectful of each other? And a lot of times stories aren't controversial, right? We're just trying to get information out to people. So it's really important that we treat everybody with respect, even if there's somebody that disagrees with it. What I don't like in a newsroom, whether it's a technical error, whether it's a fact error in a story, is I don't want to finger point. I want to make sure that we get to the bottom of what's going on, so that way when you do have a difficult subject, we all trust each other. Trust is really important in a newsroom. If they don't trust each other, then they're not going to work well together. So we spend a lot of time talking about those things.
Mm-hmm. Which is great, because you guys could navigate it together, be there for each other, and then trust each other on a personal but on a professional level as well.
Yes, and we try, and we're not always successful, but we really try to hire people that are just good people too. We want talented people to work for us, but sometimes the most talented people aren't the easiest people to work with. Yeah, so there's like a balance when we're trying to hire people. Are they a good person? Do they want to live in the Cleveland market? I want people that really, they want to put down roots in the Cleveland market. It never used to be that way, but what we're finding now is people want to move back home, and they want to be near their relatives, their families, and things like that. And so, yes, I have a hard time recruiting people to come to Cleveland from Florida because it's cold up there, right? But people that are from Cleveland, they love themselves from Cleveland. So I want them to come home and work with us.
That's great. So you've won several awards in Cleveland for overall excellence. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got there?
Yeah, it's been a journey. Like, my career has been a journey. I started off as a news photographer, like we talked about before, and excellence has always been in my mind. I think a lot of the awards that we win, especially at the station now, is because we have a culture of not just winning awards, but really doing excellent work. And that's a culture that has taken years to build. You know, I mean, the first year that I was there, I think we won like 5 Emmy Awards. The next year we won 19, you know, and one of the years we won 29 Emmy Awards, including the Overall Excellence and News Excellence Awards. And so it becomes contagious. When people are doing really good work, it's almost like a competition in the building on who's going to do a better story. They're not doing it for the awards, but it just elevates the level in the newsroom. And I think that's the thing that's most exciting. Yeah, my name is on an award for overall excellence, but it's really like the 150 people that work in the building all contributing to get to that point.
Well, that's great. So thank you so much for your insight, Steve. I have learned so much from you between all your career developments and everything. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today. Until next time, good night.